Welcome back, Dayo Akintobi. I almost gave you another name.
It's okay.
Actually, it did. It just didn't stick.
There are so many Akin around us. You look sharp. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigeria.
So let's get started with the New Telegraph newspaper. New Telegraph, of course, that's the biggest story right now. Nnamdi Kanu bags life imprisonment to remain in protective custody. Let me read the writers. IPOB leader to appeal as Okorie Southeast Group fourth conviction. We're not surprised by the judgment, says Senator Baribe. Deputy Speaker, all hope not lost. Political solution on the way. Pardon Kanu as you did Boko Haram members, that's Afenifere, accredited to Afenifere, and then heavy security around Abia State Government House. So you can see how one decision is having a lot of ripple effect. What do you make of it?
Well, terrorism, in all shapes, manner, or form, is still terrorism. So what happened yesterday should basically be repeated all across the country. The way it works so far has been that terrorism in the north, which is where it's more pronounced, seems to have been handled with kids' gloves. You haven't seen the kind of passion to prosecute and convict any of the Boko Haram, ISWAP people with the kind of degree of fervor that Nnamdi Kanu's case was handled. I mean, just a couple of days ago, we heard of a leader of one of the Ansaru terrorist cells getting sentenced to 20 years for terrorism as well. So where is the balance? And that's what's causing the misperception, is that it looks like this is targeted persecution regionally, because all the other terroristic cells are not being dealt with as harshly or being prosecuted as vigorously. So what happened yesterday should be an opportunity to correct the misperception that certain others are treated with kid gloves and certain others are treated harshly. I think it's an opportunity for the federal government to go after terrorists everywhere, particularly in the north. Terrorism is more prevalent in the north than it is anywhere else in the rest of the country. So what happened yesterday, we should be seeing that happening in the north because of the incidence of terrorism that is much more prevalent in the northern part of the country. With regards to Nnamdi Kanu's case specifically, I think the die was cast when he decided that he wasn't going to put in a defense. And I think that's part of a larger legal strategy, because as you said, he doesn't accept the fact that he was tried under an extant law. And there's so many technicalities that he is disputing. And I see the way the trial strategy was one whereby he now has a lot of grounds by which to complain about so many aspects of the trial. So I don't think we've heard the end of this yet. There's also another brewing segment that's talking about, okay, it's now time for a political solution, because people are saying, look, you have to treat this thing equally and fairly. How is what Nnamdi Kanu did any different from what Sunday Igboho did? How is it any different from what so many other people like repentant bandits have been forgiven? They hasn't done anything extraordinarily different from what other people who have been treated a little bit less. I mean, Sunday Igboho is walking freely across the country. And so government must appear to be fair in all its dealings. It must appear to treat everybody equally under the law. So the rule of law prevailed yesterday, but let it prevail all the way around across board.
Interesting angle to it. There's so much to say about that one. So much to say about that one. Well, maybe in subsequent conversations, because other papers still reported. But still on the front page of the New Telegraph, part of what Jeffrey said earlier is that it was a heated, what was the word you used again? It was a heated 24 hours, the past 24 hours.
Intense.
Very intense past 24 hours. So one of those things that made it intense was what happened in the U.S. House, in the U.S. Parliament. U.S. House hearing, that's at the bottom of the page. Insecurity in Nigeria complex, CSIS Africa director says narrative that frames situation solely as Christian persecution oversimplifies the issue. You must have also seen that video by the member of the House of Reps in the US saying that, look, as far as she's concerned, their president made a very reckless statement, which is why Jerry thinks our National Assembly should be doing the same thing to our president. But what do you make of that substantive issue?
Well, I watched the entire hearing on Channel CV yesterday, and the first thing that struck me was to see legislators in action, and to see this thing they call an oversight function in terms of an investigatory role. And it made one swell with pride that when will our own legislators get to a point of being able to investigate an issue like this? The other thing that impressed me was the facts they had at their fingertips. They know more about Nigeria's situation in terms of insecurity than I do. They were reeling out figures and statistics and instances of things that have transpired in our own country that many of us have not heard about. And I thought, this is amazing that a country that far away would be that interested to have been able to marshal all these facts and come and fight. I got a sense that they're really perturbed. You know, we've said a lot of things about, oh, they have an interest, oh, there's resources they're after. I said, but from listening to both sides of the aisle yesterday, because as much as you had some of the Congress people in favor of us remaining a country of particular concern, so also you had others across the aisle. So they were playing some politics there. There were others on the other side that said, no, the designation was reckless by the president and this and that. But what I saw from both sides was a passion that seemed genuine, that they're truly concerned about the plight of Nigerians in terms of this insecurity. It didn't seem contrived in any way, like, oh, there's an agenda at play here. And I think that all the experts that they called, the lady from...
Oge.
Yes, Oge, and... I've forgotten. I think they all lent credence to the fact that there is an insecurity problem. And I remember the lady who was saying it should not be framed from a religious standpoint. Yes, if we start counting numbers one by one, we'll say so many Muslims have been killed, so many Christians have been killed, but that to frame it religiously misses the point, because what Nigeria needs is collaboration to resolve a larger security issue. So I think it's interesting that halfway across the world, there'll be that much fervor going on about a thing that really doesn't concern them directly, other than their notion of being the policeman of the world and wherever their human rights abuses.
But how about that statement? My apologies. How about that statement about the challenges in Nigeria being complex?
They are. They definitely are, and I think probably part of the reason is that we've been looking at it very superficially and assuming that, oh, maybe it's land grab, maybe it's farmer herder crisis, maybe it's Boko Haram.
Are you sure we are superficial about it? I won't forget what Jerry said yesterday.
Okay.
Beg pardon. I won't forget what Jeffrey said yesterday. We've been lying to ourselves.
This is true, but part of lying to ourselves is because we've not been accepting the fact that it is a much deeper problem. Our approach to it has been superficial because we don't admit the nature of the problem. For example, the president sent Minister of State for Defense yesterday to Kebbi, Matawali, said you must stay there until the girls are recovered, the 25 girls taken in Kebbi. I think that's a superficial measure. I think that at this time there's fire on the mountain, and what you need is a situation room type. You've seen it in America. When there's an emergency, the president assembles not just his security chiefs, and they sit in this room and they wait there and they hash out, so where is the CDS, the president? Okay, yeah, the president canceled his trip to G20.
The NSA is in America, I think so.
Yes, NSA is in America trying to whitewash what is happening, what is happening in Nigeria. And he was taken to task on that by one of the people yesterday, that you are trying to minimize what is happening in Nigeria.
I think the general anger for a lot of people is how government is spending a lot of energy trying to either downplay. I understand the diplomatic nuance as well, because our sovereignty is our sovereignty. Downplay, manage narrative than really doing the work. So what I saw in that hearing yesterday, I think we can now agree that we have a problem in our hand.
Absolutely.
They identify the fact that don't oversimplify, don't frame it in one single direction.
Yes.
But they identify all the elements. Some is farmer header crisis.
Yes.
Some is ideological terrorists who want to Islamize Nigeria.
Yes.
Some is clearly genocide,
and some
targeted killing. And when people hear genocide, I see they are alarmed. But if you look at the UN the convention,
definition,
it simply talks about, it doesn't talk about scale. It's not saying when 1 million people are killed. intention is what makes it genocide. I want you out of my space and I want your life gone. That is genocide. That's the way the convention sees it. So I think they've been able to identify all of the drivers. Religion is a strong driver. So she is trying to say, look, if you look at it from only religion, we may have a problem. So but I think religion being a driver and is the most popular right now should be a trigger for us to solve our problem. But let's move from there. We just have a few minutes. Let's go to the Daily Independent newspaper. Is leading with Nnamdi Kanu, of course.
Yes.
But let's go to the one beneath. To sustain stability, CBN calls for fiscal and monetary alignment. If you can do for it in 2 minutes.
Yes, I read that, and I felt that that was a very important step, because there has always seemed to be a misalignment between fiscal and monetary policy. Now, the ordinary Nigerian in the streets who's listening to me this morning say, what jargon is this man talking about? What is fiscal and monetary policy got to do with the food on my table and the disposable income in my pocket? But yes, there should be some measure of harmony between interest rates, between what rates that are paid on investments, rates that are used to borrow money for business and things like that. And when you look at it, at the end of the day, all that matters is that the economy should grow, that people's income. We keep talking about inflation rates, and I keep saying what matters most is our spending power.
Yeah.
If inflation is dropping, but we still don't have enough money in our pockets to be able to afford the staples, then what is the point of GDP growth, monetary policy? All these highfalutin terms are meaningless to the ordinary Nigerian. What we are agitating for is to have a livable wage and enough disposable income to be able to eke out a meager existence. Nobody's asking for.
But my challenge, Mr. Kintobe, has always been states ought to be able to do something to alleviate some of the pressures.
Because they have a lot more money now, based on
Not just that.
removal.
We've seen the example of lake rice. If that could be replicated, in other words, the states have the capacity. Whether or not we're doing anything about it, that's the issue.
Where's lake rice today? Do we see it anymore?
I'm just citing an example.
I understand, but I'm saying that, yes, it's good to innovate, but there's also issues of sustainability. I mean, states, we've seen some states innovate in ways that is bringing dividends of democracy, not stomach infrastructure anymore, but actual dividends of democracy to their people. And more states should be encouraged to do that. But state governors generally have always been indolent and just been...
I think that's a good place. I hope they don't come for you. The governors will say, why are these people always on our case?
Always on our case, because they need to sit up and do better for their people.
See, some people, when you let me not get myself into trouble. But I'm used to being into trouble.
I've done enough for you this morning. No trouble.
The trouble is that sometimes when you see some people who are elected, whether in private or in public, I don't know how some people became anything. That's why people are saying the worst of us sometimes leading the best of us. We'll leave it at that.
Perhaps you should put yourself for office next time.
No, I'm not interested. These seats of holding our I like it.
Yes.
Nnamdi Kanu, thank you so much. Nnamdi Kanu is a public affairs analyst. We thank you for coming on the program. We appreciate it.
My pleasure always.
We'll take a break. When we come back, Professor Okey Ikechukwu, Professor of Strategic Management and Human Capital Development, joins us in just a moment from our Abuja studios as we look at the state of the nation. Stay with us.